Howdy Haunts, it is I, Keats Ross, here to interrupt this very special broadcast of the Listening Post Alpha and PRAGMAGICK liminal stream discussing the tethers and origins of the ALW Cipher. This liminal stream is of course a perfect compendium to last episode with Ren Collier, and we really do dig deep. Bobby Hale is a scholar and a gentleman, and just an incredible wealth of knowledge about all things ALW Cipher. So stay tuned for that. I just wanted to take the time to announce that my partner Mary and I are going on tour next week. That's right, we'll be hitting Utah, New Mexico, Arizona, and Southern California with shows dispersed amongst those states. We also released a split EP. 2 of the tracks are from Mary's project Moon Division, and the other 2 are mine under Rebel Ross. Her tracks are incredible. They are 2 from her forthcoming debut record, which she's been extremely hard at work on. I'm super proud of her music and what she has accomplished with home recording and basically learning the trade as she's gone. I also play and help produce a bunch of stuff on that record, including the 2 tracks of which you'll hear. This EP was kind of spurned last moment to help fund the Eclipse tour, which will not only mark a first time for Mary and I's long time want to tour together and play music together, but also open up some future casting possibilities of what this trajectory of life may hold, while also witnessing the eclipse in its totality, a brilliant bookend to the first volume of Haunt Manual workings, which really started so long ago under the total eclipse of August 2017. You can visit moonrevel.univer.se, that's a universe with the dot before the SE, for tour dates, updates, links, and a link to the EP, and ways to support us. We are funding everything ourselves. If you'd like to help support us, there are ways to do that. I will also include those ways in the show notes below. Some other ways to support us are via Patreon, patreon.com/PRAGMAGICK. You can hear I'm losing my voice from all the rehearsing and singing. But yeah, on Patreon, we will be doing road journals, videos, some Patreon streams from the road, and plus you get the album, all the unreleased material, longer uncut episodes like my full chat with Ren Collier from last episode, and more Listening Post Alpha fun stuff, of which you'll hear but a sliver of during this liminal stream. But most importantly, check out the album, revel in Moon Division's majesty. Mary's an extremely brilliant songwriter, and I couldn't be more proud to share a stage, let alone some music, with her. So I thought before we jumped into this uncut and undead liminal stream with Bobby Hale, I would share with you Mary's Tango from Moon Division off of our Moon Revel EP. Maybe I'll catch you in New Mexico, Arizona, or Southern California. Would love to see you, would love to handshake, would love to fist bump. Also, real quick, just noticed we could use some ratings. Hopefully, good ratings via Spotify or Apple iTunes. I've noticed that our listenership really goes from our website, We the Hollowed, which is great. But if you do use Spotify or iTunes, is it even iTunes anymore? Apple Music, whatever it's called, any other podcatcher, please give PRAGMAGICK a great review if you love it, and an okay review if you don't. Any review helps, and it's much appreciated. Any click, any share, any like helps support us. And with that said, here's Mary's Tango from Moon Division off the Moon Revel EP. The liminal stream will start directly after. See you in the Southwest. Haunt on.
Mary, she never says enough to me. Her communication sucks, and it don't need reminding of how she's disappointed. Is this resentment for me? It's all she says she's got. She whispers something soft of everything. You never had a name, you never did enough for her. His motivation stuck to the rug. She don't need reminding how she crushes his soul, baby. He lives a life of regret, and now he walks alone. Says something about his breath, walking out the door.
Something very mysterious is going on here.
Yeah. Thanks for joining me. I know we were gonna do this just as a, kind of an aside, a real get together, a real deep dive, and I was like, well, I'm out of practice, I'm injured, I'm hungry for attention. But yeah, thanks for coming. Hopefully you can hear me okay. I've got a whole new kind of equipment set up, so I hope that my vocals are coming out
Great.
clear. Because
Yeah,
if they're not, I'm gonna lose my shit when I listen to it later. It's just that OCD.
Yeah, I think thus far you sound good since you unmuted. We can hear you.
Well,
Everything's clear. No
yeah.
clipping as of yet.
Rule number 1, unmute. Got it. But yeah, thank you all for coming here. Jonaside, Yogi, Groucho, fellow agent, Stevie, fellow agent, Renee, everybody. Thanks for joining. Yeah, it's been too long. I'm a little rusty and I'm rickety. I'm surveying the mend of a injury I sustained last weekend concerning spinal nerves, and it sucks. So if I seem a little fidgety or weird, it's because the pain's still there. But I'm excited to do this. I thought before we launch in, though, because I'm really bad at this, let's get kind of all of the, I don't want to call them plugs, but let's let people know kind of where listening post alpha can be reached. Temple of Babylon, Quran's on, all of that. Those of you that listen might have remembered Bob from my Ghost Gematria episode. He has been a fervent purveyor in my recent works, and we've just we've had a time. I don't think there's a day that goes by where we don't dip into the ratitudes about good shit and deep shit. So I did want to show, and I'll put the link in the comments, but listening post alpha, here is the first journal was released. Bob is hard at work on finishing the second journal, which I think will be finished this month, correct?
Yes, it will be done within the month. This is here's a copy right here.
Oh, you scared me. I thought you were like putting up a whatchamacallit, one of those test versions of the second one. I was like, damn, that was
no, I wish I was that far along. It will be out within the month, but no, I'm not. I'm nowhere near. We don't have a cover yet or anything. We're not sure, but it's going to be an amazing book, as a matter of fact. But yeah, this is a big old boy, about 325 pages worth of amazing, futuristic, esoteric downloads, new takes on traditional forms of magic, including like your basic magic squares, all kinds of instructive work with the Cipher, with the PSP7 Spirit Box, and all kinds of really beautiful art by Agent 777, Leah Ferris, Agent 222, Sarath the Mage, and of course, beautiful artwork here on the cover by my man Agent 444, Groucho Trout. It's definitely worth the money. Check it out.
Awesome.
Please.
Yeah, please, right? Yeah, I put it in the chat. Hopefully that worked for, looks like it just went to let's try just YouTube. I guess I'm streaming to Twitch. Who would have thunk? It's a ghost town, right? But yeah, it's it's been a while since I've done anything live. I think those of you that have kept up with me know that I've been super fervent on the Patreon and writing the Haunt Manual. You can follow me on Patreon. I'm going to start doing more public releases via Patreon. It's just become such a good funnel for demos, writings. Just this past month, we've had, recorded conversations with Groucho Trout, Sam Shadow, my upcoming Ren Collier podcast interview. You can view in total, in its rawest format. So I'm always funneling stuff through Patreon, and that is just simply patreon.com/PRAGMAGICK. I'm still alive. I swear. I live here now, pretty much. And of course, my long-winded work of the Haunt Manual, which please subscribe to if you haven't. I think I'm reaching 60 or so subscribers, so it would be really cool if it got more. Obviously, all the multitudes of different medias and different things that we all do kind of coalesce into this brilliant listening post alpha kind of paradigm where we're all somewhat anarchic magicians in our own rights, but we bring with us this kind of ether and this just this poised, chaotic conundrum of self that is really only tethered by some rubrics with listening post alpha. and one of which I really want to dive deep into, because I'll let Bobby say kind of what the just like what binds us when it comes to listening post alpha works. I think it's threefold, but I'd love to hear it from the man himself.
Well, most recently, in the new journal, the upcoming journal, I try every single way I can to make the point that the cipher is our North Star. That in interpreting sacred scriptures during the Aeon of Horus and the Aeon of Maat, that this cipher is our North Star. This is where we all come to connect. And whatever path leading out of that we take is beautiful, but that the correct baseline metaphysics, the way to proceed, which is the way that we're all proceeding in our own different ways, in this sort of anarchistic way that leads ultimately to do what thou wilt. Now, remember, do what thou wilt. Love is the law, right?
Right.
Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. We're not there
T-shirts,
yet.
forget that part, right?
Yeah, and I think macrocosmically, that's what we're all working towards, in our own special way. But the cipher brings us back to the North Star, the star that doesn't move, for 2,000 years, or for 4,000 years, which right now is Polaris. And we've done all this work, myself and Groucho, breaking down what the cipher has to say about this precession of the North Stars, and also what the cipher has to say about time cycles and all this other really cool stuff, and how it connects to things like Goetia practice, to pop culture magic, like what we do with Twin Peaks, to like personal untethering and tethering magic with like hauntomantic sort of methods, which is like what Keats is doing and what I've kind of started to pick up on recently again. So there are all these different methods that we can work into Thelema and into moving towards that day when do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. And so that's what I'm trying to show. And the main thing to hang our hat on in the cipher is that cipher equals North Star.
Okay.
Alphabet, matrix, all that kind of stuff.
I think, let's give a quick rundown. I thought I would, in my own kind of laymanistic, anarchic, stupid mud boy kind of way, read a little bit of the forthcoming Hot Manual chapter where I talk about the ALW cipher. And for those that don't know about it, perhaps this is just a very layman kind of introduction to what we mean by ALW cipher. It doesn't want to do it. Let's stop share. It's been a while, folks. Let's see. So again, this is a it doesn't want to share. Are you seeing it?
No, I'm not seeing anything.
Interesting.
Live is evil spelled backwards. Don't forget.
That's right. Yeah. So the there we go. The point of this, and this will be part of a chapter. You're seeing kind of a draft of it. I'm just going to read this portion because, in my own kind of way, I'm not a Thelemite. I've had my history with Crowley, the dips and weaves with him, and kind of this relinquishing of any kind of persona for more of the ideas that he had. But this is kind of how I ascertained the ALW cipher, which we're talking about today. And I say, to be honest, the ALW cipher's origins still elude me. It is often referred to as English Kabbalah, a somewhat specific current of use that has come with its own baggage and rubrics. Bob Ra, who is here now, of Listening Post Alpha, shuns the EQ terminology as a means to keep it at its purest form, a tool, free from the confines of hierarchical magical orders such as English Kabbalah. The English Kabbalah, with a Q to delineate itself from the Jewish Kabbalah, with a K, has a storied history of psychical archaeology and whip-smart deconstruction from academics and mages alike, such as the late great Drake Stratton Kent, R.I.P., who defined the gematria as a Kabbalah and not just a system of numerology. And to quote Jake Stratton Kent, a Kabbalah is specifically related to three factors. 1, a language. 2, a holy text or texts. 3, the mathematical laws at work in both of these things. So the ALW cipher origin lore, as I understand it, is simply a mysteriously sketched grid from Crowley in his manuscript of Liber Al. An otherwise unassuming doodle to the layman without fanfare, explanation, or additional notes itself, but leave it to the tether conductors and madcap coincidence squashers that are academic and practicing occultniks to unearth a secret alphabet from such a seemingly innocuous sketch. And boy, howdy, did they find something truly fascinating. So that's kind of my quick, rundown of how I had seen it before really diving in, to kind of its origins and currents and whatnot. I think a lot of the confusion for me when I had first come across ALW was, the English Kabbalah as a certain sect or current that utilizes it. And, it's very storied and academic. And then there's, the cipher itself, which is also called the New Aeon English Kabbalah or the English Kabbalah. But I like to delineate it, and I think you agree, when we call it the ALW cipher, it kind of frees itself from those currents, and it's
let me untangle some knots. Okay. So what I'm referring to when I say ALW cipher is just simply the cipher, the Kabbalistic formula, ALWHSD, right? Just this 11, this affine cipher based on the number 11.
Right.
Okay. And there are all kinds of practices that have formed around that cipher and the revelations that come from working with the gematria of that cipher. Now, the person who discovered the cipher was a man named James Lees. I think it was 1976. Pretty sure. And anyway, so the idea to derive an English cipher comes actually from verse 255. I'm going to pull it up on my computer so I can read it to you real quick. It's a real short little verse. Thou shalt obtain the order and value of the English alphabet. Thou shalt find new symbols to attribute them unto. And I think that's the only thou shalt in that book.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, and it kind of like hints and portends to this, seemingly innocuous sketch that's in the manuscript, right?
And then, in 276? Yeah. 276, you get this long string of numbers. I'm not going to read it all out, but it's known popularly as the R.P. Stovall cipher. And the rest of the verse says, "What meaneth this, O prophet? Thou knowest not, nor shalt thou know ever." So, in other words, Crowley doesn't know, and he's never going to figure it out. That's what Iwas is saying here. This is not your thing. It didn't stop Crowley from trying.
Right.
There cometh one to follow thee, he shall expound it. But remember, O chose none to be me, to follow the love of new in the starlit heaven, to look forth upon men, to tell them this glad word. Now, I don't know what all that means.
Sure.
But I'm sure. But if you start looking at all that kind of stuff by the cipher, then you might come up with some sort of really interesting interpretation.
Yeah, and I was gonna
Yeah.
say too, I think we should talk a little bit about, IWAS and Liberal and it being sort of a channeled work. Obviously I have a lot of appreciation for the kind of heteronym or the displacement of self to work without the confines of a filter in a very brass tacks sort of way. But I do love that, this work as dictated by Iwas is, would you consider him his holy guardian angel or one of them, or is it just a sort of a messenger?
I'm not gonna. If somebody says this being is my holy guardian angel, I'm not gonna argue with them about that. Especially Al Crowley, who produced so much work under the auspices of Iwas. Now the thing is tricky about Iwas. He dictates all of the Class A material for the AA. And the only other person, I think there was one other person that Crowley said transmitted something through Iwas, or Iwas transmitted something through them. So Iwas was able to kind of move around and be channeled. And there were sessions like the Abeldes working, which came a little later, I think, after Liberal, where Iwas shows up as Abeldes, like he at a couple of parts in the working. He's identified as, they're like Abeldes is Iwas, a couple of
like Mask of a Thousand Faces.
Abeldes shows up with, or Iwas shows up with all kinds of masks, and Lam is one of those masks. I'm pretty sure, and so. Yeah, it's and I would say that I think I heard Sam talking about this on the little conversation that you guys had the other night, which I hated to miss, but talking about how like a lot more people are putting Iwas above Crowley, and I think Crowley would be okay with that, I think that was what he intended with making Iwas the head of the OTO and equating him with Baphomet, all this other different kind of stuff. Is like Iwas, anybody who's working with the Thelemic currents or working with the Book of the Law is working with Iwas. It's something that transcends him, and it's what travels through space and time. I was gonna say it's almost like his Elohim. And I would describe myself as an Iwasian Thelemite.
Okay.
I've actually written an essay about this that was published in the last Silver Star Journal by Horace Mayot Lodge, if anybody wants to check that out. And I've laid out a pretty good argument for it and for and I've broken down completely as I can the relevance of Iwas, all the letters in his name and how they work out for the Thelemite of the future, not of the past.
Well, yeah, let's talk a little bit more about the practice of using this gematria, because what people are seeing right now are kind of polarized, folks using kind of the same gematria, having fascinating, beautiful results, but I'm on the side of a kid with a brand new toy. You're on the side of, long storied, studied, awesome use and everything. And
I've only been studying the cipher for about since 2019. So,
okay.
You know what I mean? But I have to say I'm obsessed is an understatement, right? So I have, and when I really love something, I really love it. You know what I mean? So I would say that I probably know more about it than anyone else that's willing to talk about it. You know what I mean? And I know about the cross currents and I've had my own experience with it.
And that's exactly why, I wanted to get your input, because as I'm constructing this, haunt manual chapter, and my latent journalistic mode is like, fuck, I guess I should explain it. Like I guess I should talk about maybe its origins, or where how it's being used, or I come from such a patchworked kind of anarchic potpourri, if you will, of like, I guess in a sense, folks can claim it as chaos. There is reverence I give to anything I use, but there's also like, I don't stop at the pragmatic part of it. I don't stop at the result based things. What it interests me is this like underlying tether you find with your own folklore, your own lexicon, like how we speak to the world, the words we use, our vernacular, like, and how that correlates, very deeply to different things. And I just talked to Ren Collier, who helped make the naeq.io, which is an easy, anyone can use ALW Cipher calculator, and what's funny is I rarely see it. It computes. So here, I'll show everybody real quick. So
Yeah,
this
pull
is
that up.
NAEQ, and
I
this was,
owe Rand Collier a Coke and a smoke, by the way.
yeah.
Because,
I mean,
man,
I
that
owe
tool-
you.
And
Yeah.
pretty much every, well, yeah, and that's what I want to make clear. But like, we're pretty far into this already, but I want to make clear, like right now, like everybody we're discussing all these, even if we have little disagreements and we don't exactly practice what other person practices or see it the way other people see it, I want it to make it clear that like the work that you've done is so important to me. And so I'm here tonight to discuss this, to show gratitude and respect. And I hope that everybody sells books off this, and
Right.
you know what I mean? That everybody gets something good out of this, including the viewers. And and yeah, there's been a lot of talk. I've been on like tons of podcasts and whatnot, and I've seen tons of podcasts with people like Greenfield. And I mean, people they're not going very deep into what this really is, like with the meat of the subject, before they just start popping off with all this, like, oh, you can use it to talk to extraterrestrials. You can, you know what I mean? It's
Right,
like,
yeah.
right. So it does sound kind of crazy to people who are just walking into it. It's like you get hit by a car or something, It's like, or,
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's where, forgive me for fucking saying this, but the pragmagic part of me like comes through, is that I do really see the pragmatic side of enhancing
Absolutely.
and inspiring creativity with it. It's like, it's built tethers I wouldn't have otherwise, thought of. I've always been a fan of, I think, I'm just kind of predisposed to numbers and names, and especially linguistics. And this thing just broke open my head since meeting you, talking with you, working with Listening Post Alpha. And I think I want to share that with people. I want to be like, it's not as elusive, it's not as mysterious or weird. Like, it really is just a liminal mark in a manuscript that has built such a beautiful fucking folklore, out of it. And, say what you will about Crowley or Thelema, like, and none of that, like, should bar the sense of wonder and use of something like this, And so, yeah, this is naeq.io. Super easy. Anyone can go to it. Obviously, it's a website. But the cool thing about this, and this is really for the Crowleyites and the liberal folks, is that not only does it generate the gematria or gematria, forgive me, however you say that, but it also shows you where that gematria is in and cites all of liberal. So that's a really fascinating. It's helped me as somebody that, I'll be honest, like, skimmed it when I was in high school, or like, I think Magic and Theory and Practice was more pivotal to me, but like, it's helped me kind of understand the book itself in another way, and it's taken kind of the persona out of it. And So it's fun if you if you think you know the text liberal and haven't really messed with this. That alone will show you some fun things. But I thought, just as a kind of brash introduction to this, that we'd use Eric J. Millar's disruption generator, and I've done this on Patreon. So it is. Let's see here. So this is the one of 3 decks that were ever made of his portable bibliomantic oracle. And so I've been having fun not only in using the Gematria and ALW Cipher for my recent hot manual workings and stuff with LPA, but something as simple as, let's see, get out of there. Something as simple as, pulling this kind of anarchic anti-tarot weird deck and just kind of logging every day a word or some colloquialism or idiom or special kind of vernacular to me. I will just go to NAEQ, calculate it, and then compile it in a glossary, which I have here with a bunch of things that I've been using. And big thanks to Listening Post Alpha and Bob Ra and Leah and Groucho and Stevie for being open with sharing these kind of findings, Sam, and it's been really fun for me to find the kind of, to find almost a, I don't want to say divinatory, but fuck, let's be real, some of it kind of is divinatory aspects of finding this gematria as it ties to seemingly random words. There we are. And I pulled from this deck, we'll say amoebic. And again, this disruption generator was generated with a random word generator. And so if I was to do like a 3-card pull, so amoebic is the first word. Now I would go to, and this is just a fun little exercise. Please use whatever you do. No thanks. We're going to write in amoebic, and it automatically generates it. It's 110. So I go to my personal glossary, scroll down, 110. Seattle, Washington, and Lucifer. Very interesting. Both things that might be a little too close to home for me, but then I'll log it, amoebic. I mean, you can just the
shamelessly.
Yeah, right.
Shamelessly is one on mine.
Oh yeah.
You were like the last thing you did. It was like it's like we just picked up where we left off from the last one you did. It was like shameless came up.
Yes.
And when shamelessly equals 110, I think.
Did it really? I remember you saying, and that's another really cool, and I think just kind of beautiful resonance that any words that are full or less equate to the same number.
Yeah, right? Like it's like the beatitudes. I call it the beatitudes of Al. It's like the useful is useless, the beautiful, the whatever, the shameful is shameless, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. So yeah, that's perfect. I just wanted to give a quick overview like that, and just something that I do walking like throughout my day. And again, this helps. You'll see some of the words if anyone can see it. I don't know how good the resolution is, but you'll see words that I've made up and all sorts of shit that's not really tethered to anything but me. But then you start to kind of program it in these folkloric fist pumps of holy shit, that's insane. And it works too. I learned from you, Bob. You had started using like tarot itself and putting major arcana into
from the Book of Thoth, because one of my obsessions is seeing how the stuff that Crowley did does bear against the Cipher. And yeah, some of those cards are pretty perfect, including like how there might be some esoteric explanations in the cipher as to why, he made the switches between the emperor and the star and stuff like that. Yeah, that's all. You can look up any of that stuff in the ALW Cipher study group. And yeah, 110 also is like, what is it, 55 times 2?
Yeah.
And so 255 is, thou shalt find the new order and value of the English gematria or whatever. So
Right.
it's pretty
Hilarious. Yeah.
But yeah, that's crazy, man. That shows that how this connective tissue works. This little amoeba has really hatched some strange eggs. Do amoebas hatch eggs? I don't think that really.
No, I think they more like
amoebas do?
osmorph into something else. I don't know.
Okay. Well, there you
Osmorph.
go.
There's a word
That makes total sense. Yeah.
Yeah, but like I want to keep doing this because what I love about the disruption generator is that not only Eric's art is just brilliant, but it's all seemingly mundane, random generated words. And here's another tool to, like, if I was to do a 3-card spread, I've got amoebic, I've got gate.
Ooh, north.
And then I've got
that takes us.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Well, yeah, gate takes us back to the north gate, or the gate equals north. It also equals lovers. I also the other day was doing I was reading damn it, what is it? Let me pull it up. It's one of Crowley's texts that it's my latest post. It's a really funny one though. Pulling it up right now.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I don't have a 61.
Yeah, lovers. 61 equals lovers. 61 equals gate. It equals north. Bringing us back to the North Star or the Stargate. But it also equals so from Liber 53 by Aleister Crowley. Tamura tells us, praise to Adonai. Rabbi Mephibosheth ben Mordecai was wont to say that the Adepti see samadhi equalized with sodomy. That transcends short o' face and long nose both. This is the deepest den of the Klepoth. Match them. The tree of life in Eden Bower grows balanced perfectly from root to flower. This may be why Reverend Mrs. Grundy called him a sodomite the other Sunday. Hilarious.
Grundy.
God, I love Crowley. But yes, it says right here, samadhi equalized with sodomy. So I was like, that's hilarious. And just for funsies, I went and looked it up. Samadhi, S-7.
Yeah.
Samadhi with it's SAMADHI. Samadhi, 61, and sodomy, SODOMY.
So do you think, was this pre or post when he was sketching, when this became kind of apparent? Because he says in Liberal, or Iwas says that you won't know, like he won't understand it.
That's what I'm saying. And it's like, did he figure it out, or did he at least mess with it? Because the thing is that Liber Al was originally called Liber El. The reason he changed it to Liber Al is because his student and his magical child, who and for a time his magical heir, Charles Stansfield Jones, also known as Frater Akkad. I'm sorry, I'm from the South and I've been isolated my whole life, so I don't know how to say these fancy names. But anyway, some old farter, he decided that the first letter to this cipher was probably A, because of this whole thing about you can read it in his book Liber 31. I don't really want to get into that, but
sure.
Yeah, Lieber. So then Crowley was convinced that of this. So then he changed the name of the book to Liber Al. And so it seems to me that it would make sense. I mean, with these guys who are pretty genius to at least have been like, I wonder if just what the entire algorithm of just using 11 would look like, at least. And they might have played with it here and there. And of course, sodomy would equal samadhi in Jewish gematria too, because you're leaving out the vowels.
Right.
But it's just you get funny little things like that all through his work, and so you can look at it in a few different ways. Well, maybe he knew it, maybe he was dropping little hints, or maybe this was just Iwas speaking through him continuously, even making little jokes like, but long ago I realized that 61 is lovers and also equals eat ass. And so which is a form of sodomy, I suppose, and a form of samadhi if you're a sick fuck like me.
Yeah.
So anyways, now we've gone totally into the weeds, but
I love it.
I think that's a great example, of how the kind of, the fun that you can have with this almost, but also, how you can start working it into your sort of new aeon interpretation of magic and of practice and of, like right there. I mean, it's kind of, we're tongue in cheek. It's fun, but this is burst from sex magic. So,
Sure.
So there's all kinds of ways that you can take it. And, it's a beautiful thing,
Yeah, sex magic is literally just physically generative magic.
Absolutely, it's magic.
But yeah, I think you had me on kind of a spin there for a minute about just about poetry being a gematria in and of itself. I mean, there's all these cyclical rhymes and adages and alliterations, and like it's almost a kind of Popper's angelic language in a way, so it makes sense that Crowley, who was a poet, that things come out easier that way to get to the source quicker, that to me that's just it's obvious in a way, but I do love that outside of that, having it be somewhat confirmed and reaffirmed with numbers, right, of a gematria is, it's just fascinating stuff. It's
this is an old practice, one of the oldest magical practices, breaking down the alphanumeric ciphers and divining esoteric information from their correspondences. This is old as dirt magic, just brought to you for application in the new aeon based on the number 11, which Crowley designated as the number of magic.
Yeah, absolutely. Can I ask you, because I talked to Ren about this, and I'm pretty sure I understand the answer, but for some reason I keep hanging on to this idea that the referring to it as the ALW cipher is the tool itself. There's not really a current laden kind of thing about it. But what are some of your kind of understandings of the English Kabbalah with a Q, and how that kind of maybe deviates from, your use of the gematria, or just kind of my use with it too, without, obviously declaring it.
Yeah. So the English Kabbalah, it started with James Lees and his group called the OAA. And this was an initiatory group that, with several members, including Jake Stratton King, late 70s, early 80s. I'm not sure how long they actually stuck around as a group, but they published their findings through this book right here, The New Equinox, British Journal of Magic.
Right.
There are several issues. They're really good. I recommend them. You can get them at Haitian Press. So their first order of business was kind of deciphering the Book of the Law based on these new metaphysical findings through this cipher. And so the most of the English Kabbalah people that are still around from the original group are they mainly work with the Book of the Law. They don't like when they're doing their gematria work, they're not pulling from outside of things. You know, they're not pulling from outside the Book of the Law. Some of them go into the other Class A IWAS work and might pull correspondences from there, but they're not doing this cipher nautical investigation on steroids thing that we're doing, where we're pulling from just any old place.
So
because
it really
they consider the Class A is the sacred work of IWAS.
Okay.
And so that's where you should keep it. And I respect that to a totally. But I think IWAS has some other stuff to say, and he finds places to say it, you know. So, but back to what the English Kabbalists believe and do. They also have a whole Kabbalistic system based on their findings with the gematria. And they created a tree of life. It's actually a 2-tiered tree, like it's not a front and a back. I think it's like an arboreal tree and an under, like a chthonic tree. Mm-hmm. If I'm understanding that right,
like a chthonic daemon, sort of.
Yeah, and they let's see. I'm just going to show you a picture.
It's Lon Milo, right?
Lon Milo wrote the intro for. Lon Milo wrote the intro for Jake Stratton Kent's Liber 187.
Yeah.
And he talked about some magic he did with the cipher and stuff, but he wasn't really involved in this stuff. This was people like, mainly James Lees, Jake Stratton Kent, Kath Thompson, and someone named Carol Smith.
Carol Smith is a big one that keeps coming up in my research. Yeah.
Yeah. And right here is the tree, 2-tiered. And what they did is they took each number or letter from that sequence in the cipher and they added 93 to it. And so that's how you get then you get your identities of the Sephiroth from that number. So the top of the first Sephiroth, so the first number in that cipher is 4. And so you add 93 and you get 97. And then it works on down the tree like that. And kind of in the traditional order, though, like the 1, 2, 3 order of the old tree. And
you mean Keter down?
Yeah.
Malkuth up.
I think, and I think they moved a couple of stations, and they've got some exegesis about why they did that and whatnot. So, and they also connect all this to a self-initiatory system. It's not necessarily like a degree. So I think the OAA that they started with was hierarchical. But they're definitely now, they insist on self-initiation, but they're very clear about how they think that you should be doing it, they claim that that's because of for safety purposes. They don't want it to blow up in your face. And I guess throughout the history of people working with this stuff, I think some minds have been blown, some circuits have been blown, but that's want to happen with anything like this, and
the tower card all over, baby.
Electricity. So that's also, you might ask about the pathways. And so there's kind of an answer for that. There's this has not really got anything to do with the cipher per se, but Jake Stratton Kent discovered this during his years of doing cipher nautical investigations. And there's this stop in chapter 3 of the Book of the Law, chapter 3, verse 38, which is the adorations for Nui. And this was actually taken from the the stele of revealing, and translated from like Egyptian into French and then into English or whatever. And so there's a lot made of this. This is a very holy verse, but it's also a very contested. It's like a war zone also within Thelemic culture. And there's this stop in it, right? And it's kind of weird. So I'll read it to you up to the point that's relevant. This is Liberal chapter 3, verse 38. So that thy light is in me, and its red flame is as a sword in my hand to push thy order. There is a secret door that I shall make to establish thy way in all quarters. These are the adorations as thou hast written, as it is said. And now, anybody that knows anything about Thelemic magic,
Oh, did we lose Bobby? Please let me know in the chat if you can still at least see or hear me. Lord knows it's my fault. But looks like we lost Bobby. Anyways, yeah, please let me know in the chat. Jonacide, I did want to say that I'm excited to bring up the Jack Parsons correlation, especially when it comes to the gematria. So I remember the comment. Thank you for it. Yeah, it looks like Bobby's. There he goes. He's probably coming back. But yeah, so here's another fun thing. So, it's just become such a part of my folklore now to equate this. I will show you one thing. That is an empty thing. So Patreon subscribers, something that I will be sharing bits and bops of in the next Haunt Manual chapter is my recent audiomancy, hauntomancy, my music, spirit box, and gematria session that I did. It's on YouTube. It's one of my most recent videos. It's called the Prospector Ritual. And I went through it, I transcribed it, and I did the gematria for all of the spirit box transmissions, and then basically wrote this kind of beatnik oeuvre of what I was doing musically, how it pertains to things, and yeah, I'll show you a little bit of it. Oh, I'm in the wrong thing. But yeah, it's been just super fascinating. Of course, I want to get this right. Writing Haunt Manual, it's been so kind of up my own ghostly butt that I do source, I do cite, there's footnotes, but for this one, I just wanted it opened up an avenue for me to learn more from the history and this kind of ill-gotten weirdness, and just the kind of fascinating trajectory and current that folks spawned throughout the ages. There's a bunch of hints to it, of course, but it's really this like breadcrumb kind of adventure, right? So let's see. Jonty says only those who understand their will is remedial and God's will be done are allowed to do what they wilt, like a flower. Amen. Haunt on. Here's Bob.
Uh-oh, I said it was a war zone. Somebody taking their shots, so I'm back. All right.
Yeah.
Banished. Where was I? Oh, yes. The light is mine. Its rays consume me. And then there's a stop. Me, I have made a secret door into the house of Ra and Tum, of Kephra and of Ahathor.
Oh, yeah.
So starting at the letter M, if you go down those three like down each verse, like the next 3 verses, you get these names of these 3-lettered mercurial entities, and the names of each entity that rules over each governor of each quarter is in those lines. Like it goes down the middle of the line. So you have Ratum, Kefra, and Hathor, right? And then Jake Stratton Kent puts those with each letter of the alphabet. There's 22, so he puts it with 22 letters of the alphabet, which I think there's 22 letters in the Hebrew.
In the Hebrew alphabet.
The last 4 letters he attributes to the 4 elements.
Okay.
And, so the 4 earthly elements or whatever. And so and
by the way, just to bring up Hebrew, hand came up, and I was just talking about Yod, which is meaning arm or service. Hand. Yeah.
What does it equal? I can't remember.
If you're the floating Zardoz head, perhaps I am one of the hands.
Maybe you're a hand. Yeah. Cool. You bring the smackdown. It looks
fiddly digits.
So we've been thrown off our path here. So anyways, these are the 22 paths. These are the demons of the 22 paths for the English Kabbalah. And I think it's a pretty great discovery. I've worked with some of these spirits to excellent effect. I've gained much esoteric information from these beings, mostly about things that you would put under Mercury or a Tiphoretic section of knowledge or gnosis. And so also they can be used with like the sigils from Liber Arcanorum or Carcerorum. These guys right here. And these are also, let's see, the Carcerorum are your sigils with the temple, or good Lord, with the tonals of Set. And so there's really a lot of leeway to use that cipher system as well. So all that's really, really interesting. And that's like pretty much the gist of the English Kabbalah as far as what you get is like a traditional tree of life, and and
I mean, of course, the threes too, because the Sephiroth kind of sectioned off in these triangles, like all the way down and up, and these different columns, right? The 3 columns, and there's a lot of
there's a lot of esoteric stuff there. I have notes about it, but I don't want to keep us here like you could just any of this stuff, like we could go on all night, really, we could break down that tree and blah, you know what I mean? It would just be, I don't even think that they've gone that far, really. So then there's this whole astro-Kabbalism angle to the English Kabbalah, and this is built off of, I guess they all had like a pretty strong interest in astrology already. I think Lee's that was his main thing. If somebody's here that can correct me on that, if I'm wrong, then please do. But astrology was his main thing, so that was what they went to, and the deepest. And it turns out that you get correspondences with your number 93, like mother equals nature, but also
virgin,
but also Scorpio. It also equals murder. It also equals like coffin, yin and yang. So Keats Ross, the mother of the
mother virgin,
Keats Ross, and so how to make sense out of all this. And so they just go ahead and they kind of start breaking it down for you. They have this thing called the spell of nature, where they break down the astrological, the 12 signs, and there's they distinguish 2 power zones, 2 specific power zones, and these power zones sort of mirror the menstrual cycle, in the human female. And
Almost
so
like moon phase.
the moon phases and the sun phase. So, and the main, they've got the planting season, which is, or the season of, of the seed, which would be in your Taurus, Aries for your northern hemisphere. And then you've got the bleeding months, where the seed in Libra and Scorpio, where the seed is judged, and either the mother makes the decision to either mother the child or murder the child, and I don't mean that like a redneck, right? Murder the kid, you know what I mean?
No, I get you. That's
But,
that's
it's as a metaphor, like thinking of and you can kind of apply this to an idea or anything, and what they say is that like you can use this gnosis or this understanding to do all kinds of creative work and all kinds of magical work, but also it's kind of like points out a kind of a law, of how things kind of work, and in a macrocosmic sense, and so just as a pragmatic or practical example of how this might work. One time I was working with this guy who it was just kind of a drag, and everybody kind of was ready for him to go. He had started a new job, but he was very determined to keep working at this job, but he wouldn't do anything while he was at the job. And he was bringing in a lot of negative emotions and negative karma. And, I walked over to the schedule one day. And I was very angry, and I was about to write a thing on the schedule. And then when I looked at his name, I saw Moon in Libra, and I said to myself, he'll be gone by Moon in Libra. And by God, he was. That's the day Moon and Libra hit, he put in his notice, and then he was gone by the next planting season, right? And washed away completely. So, or I guess by Moon and Capricorn, really, something like that. And so then this shifts into something called the 418, which we take that from a verse in Liberal, which Crowley worked out a whole, really the depth of his system is based on the number 418 and all that and the word abrahadabra and how those things kind of connect. Right. And so all that's really beautiful, and we're not trying to correct any of that. But in Liberal, where we talk about the house 418, he never really said, well, here is the house 418, other than it was like this. He kind of fudged this thing with Booley-Skine, right? And Booley-Skine is equals 418 by some convoluted method, right?
Okay, yeah,
and and so anyways, not so much. And so the English Kabbalists, in a stroke of genius, were trying to figure this out, and they noticed, house equaled Hadith, which is the chapter that verse is in, I'm pretty sure. And also the other verses about finding a new system of English gematria and all this, and the 276 cipher, right? So Hadith, and then Hadith equals Libra. Libra equals house, okay? So obviously that equals 58. That's a long way from 418. Well, okay, so what comes after Libra? Well, Scorpio. That equals, those two together equal 151. And they keep going. They add Sagittarius and they add Capricorn. Those 4 months, the words of those 4 months together equals 418. So there you have your house, in the classical astrological terms.
Right, the winter turn.
Your house 418, yeah. And that's a classical time of initiation, and when the veil is said to be thinned, and all that kind of good stuff,
have you so we can talk about all the different currents and uses of it, but has there been another kind of gematria other than we have the kind of the Jewish and the kind of Western and all of this? It seems like this one hits on a different level in some very specific way. Has there been another gematria? Are we kind of chasing a pareidolia of sorts? Is there some pattern making?
Well, I'm a true believer. This is my dogma. You're never going to talk me out of it, because I don't know. It stuck to me like glue. It didn't, and then it did. It was like I received it, and now it's my thing. And I love it. It's my little baby, and I hold it, and I love it, and I'm never going to let it go, probably. But
I love it. Yeah.
There are tons of other English gematria. I mean, anybody can make up a cipher, and
Sure.
I even talk about one that I use in the actual Listening Post Alpha journal. I cover some little experiments I did with Berthiaud's angelic cipher, which he used for what he called his Enochian work or whatever, which was he was doing kind of a similar thing to what we do in the Temple of Babylon Kronzon. But I've done some work with it, and there's found some interesting things, and you can find on ALW Cipher if you look it up. There are even some experiments, and I show where there are some like entanglements, like some things come together like this. And one of them, interestingly, is Hermes, that both equal 92 by both of those ciphers. And there have been, some people who weren't so excited about the things that they found in the cipher, and they wanted to move on after working with it quite extensively. They wanted to move on to something else, or they were inspired by some other cipher. And one of those was Joel Love's Cipher X, which is
Joel Love's Cipher X.
Joel Love's Cipher X. And I could put you in contact with a guy that's still he's doing some work with that. He's actually, I think, looking to publish a tarot deck that is kind of like it serves as an intermediary between the ALW and the Cipher X.
Is this the CXV for? No.
Oh, I don't know.
Joe Loves Cipher X.
Yeah. I can't remember. I found actually one of my buddies online who's also cipher obsessed, sent me some links to there is like a calculator for it, but it's listed under something else. But
right. What I love too is this confluence you have too, just in modern kind of magical tools. There's like NAEQ, what Ren and Alan did. There's a bunch of coding and like tools that are happening. It's almost like it's reached this like kind of beautiful pinnacle where we just, of course there's a processes when you're doing the long calculations and the, pen and paper and stuff, but it seems to be like in this like beautiful pinnacle of, because of coding and because of, digital kind of the internet age and everything, that like it's just kind of blown open in this like really fantastic way, and the thing with Ren with NAEQ is like, you can, I forget the hacker terms he said, but it's like you can take this code, put it somewhere else, you can change it.
There's a bunch of sites now, and it's really blown up. And I think, and that's another reason I want to stick with it and work with it until I can squeeze all the juice out of it, is because, you know what I mean? I want it. There's a reason for that, is what I feel. And there's a reason that it happened, that it was discovered, that it's been it used as an answer, that it's the most published on answer to that cipher. Now there are lots. I have people that are jumping into the ALW cipher all the time who are like dropping essays about their other answer or whatever. And I'm like, well, that's cool. And maybe there's something to that, but this one goes up to 11, and
I mean, very rarely too with a current or something, with this like simple of a kind of, I kill the word rubric to death, but with this simple kind of a rubric, it's very rare that people across many different delineations, anarchic kind of, means of creation and metaphysical praxis and shit, can share the like wonder and amazement of how this web is tethered, that's why I asked that. It's a pretty relatively rudimentary question.
And so and maybe we can use that to kind of like transition to the NAEQ, which is the more American side of things. I think in Greenfield's book that he listed as like NAEQ 6, Cipher 6, and he talks about like, look, we went through all kinds of ciphers,
and
all
this
kinds
is
of stuff.
Secret info, the UFO knots, right?
Yeah. Secret Cipher, the UFOnauts, and which is also a great book, foundational to what we're doing,
Right.
And the NAQ stuff that he did is interesting, but it comes from a search where like lots of people were looking into this and just looking into English gematria in general, and one of those groups was called QBLH. And I might not have my history straight, but I think that the first American that started looking at this cipher, and that was, I think he was getting copies of the New Equinox, and he kind of dug it, and his name was William Wallace Webb. And he was so into it, that I've seen letters online where he was signing his name and putting the number, by the cipher next to his name and stuff like that.
That's 23. WWW.
No, WWW is 333.
I mean, in ALW, I was just saying like
but William Wallace Webb is WWW, and it's also that synchromystical sort of thing, where it's like he picks it up and it really does take off because of its resonance through internet culture, And
I love that, because like 333 famously kind of the number of Qurans on, right?
Yeah.
And like what is the internet what the internet age has opened up is kind of this untold fathomability of chaos in a way. So I never put that together. That's actually a really beautiful kind of or horrifying, we'll see.
Right. Well, both, as any good practice works, it's both, it's not, and that's, people are very worried about dangers these days in the magic community. And I am too, and, but what I can tell you is that, when I started working with this cipher, I think, I was experiencing a period of psychosis, as a matter of fact, and I think it helps me find a center. It grounds me. And at first, usually people go pretty wild with it, but then after a while they start to settle in and see what their, not so much what their place is in the scheme of things in a sort of egoistic way, but in a sort of way where it's like, what is my place in this current, in this field of investigation? What can I give to this thing that gives to me, and how can I be as clear as I possibly can and in communicating what this monster wants to say,
right?
That's where I'm at. But at first, I was wild, and I go back to those original experiences though later in a more lucid state, and after working with it for a longer period of time and see even more mind-blowing stuff, and I see that I wasn't able to see that then because I wasn't ready, and so that gives it like this sort of egregoric kind of thing, and I would call that IWAS, but it might just be this collective that's really tuned into it, and when, if you bring like this super spectrum or this ultra terrestrial super spectrum sort of paradigm that like people like John Keel and Alan Greenfield were sort of pushing there, then that like how we communicate and interface with these beings, they morph around, they tune in with us as we tune into them in different ways, I think like something like Twin Peaks is so important, all this. But so that's how it gets to America, is through this guy William Wallace Webb, who's a Gnostic bishop, a Thelemite, but he's a little he's not like a trad Thelemite.
Not like the others,
Yeah, he's a little different, and his his philosophies and stuff. And I don't think he was in good with the OTOs and whatnot, and that seems to be a theme going forward with both sides of the ocean. And this Cipher is that the main groups in Thelema, OTO, AA, the hierarchical groups are not big fans, as a whole. And there are some scathing.
Well, that makes me like it more. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, well, I love it, but yeah. So, there's, and the Americans were the first to make the computer programs, the calculators,
Right. Yeah.
Back then it was just, they were trading these things on floppy disks throughout the esoteric communities, and mostly down here in the South,
Really?
strange. Yeah. It was mostly Atlanta based folks, Yeah.
I would love to get my hands on one of those. Yeah.
As I understand it,
Right. But that's what I've always, it's one of those tools in the tool belt that allows you to have the outsiderdom necessary to kind of create and harness something while also sharing with others. And it's just as simple as that for me, where I think much to my chagrin, I'm too contrarian with currents and things and people, and I think it has a lot to do with maybe trauma and abandonment issues and all sorts of fun stuff, right?
No,
but
I get it.
To have another ingredient in this tool belt of holy shit, this is breaking open my own folklore. It's helping me understand myself. It's helping me kind of mark tethers within not even linguistics, but like deeper meanings. And it's like, at the very least, it's a fucking blast. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
At the very least, it's like
for a certain
exciting
type of person. Yeah. But I think you have to have already been through some things. Right. You have to, you know what I mean? You have in good ways and bad ways. You know what I mean?
We don't want to be in Darren Aronofsky's Pie or nothing. You know what I mean?
Right. Or do we?
Maybe we are.
Yeah.
3-1 forward. What does that add
to? But so I know 315 is the room where Dale Cooper sleeps. And
was it 3-1-4-8?
By the Cipher, 315 equals Great Northern Twin Peaks.
Right. Cascadia.
Room 315. That's where you're going to find Dale Cooper.
Beautiful. Let's before we wrap up, I don't think we gave it much service, or I don't allow it much service, and this is not by design, but let's talk a bit about another thing that kind of bridges gap with LPA, and that was Twin Peaks. Like, it really came through kind of, this anarchic collective that were utilizing these tools, but deciphering Twin Peaks. Now, was that a lark to begin with? Of course, nothing is a lark with.
I was a fan. I'm a late budding fan of David Lynch, and as with everything for the most part, other than naughty things like drugs and William S. Burroughs. But I started getting into David Lynch. I liked the idea of David Lynch more than I liked David Lynch at first. That I really loved but it turned out that the episodes I really loved from Twin Peaks were the episodes where he was actually directing, and Leah had just had our daughter. We were on a binge watch of Twin Peaks. She had never seen it. And I was aware of some of the esoteric symbolism, Black Lodge, White Lodge, all that kind of fire elementals, blah, blah, blah. And so I was aware of all that, but I wasn't really looking into it, too heavy. And I had never applied it to the Cipher or anything like that. I had Jake Stratton Kent's book, Libra 187, but I had done some experiments in the book, and I was kind of like, well, this is kind of too close to classic Kabbalism, which that wasn't really what I was looking for in my practice. And I was looking for something a little more rhizomatic, I guess I would say, for my philosophy fans out there. But so rather than arboreal, I had worked with a few little gematria ciphers, and there were some interesting things, but never anything where I was just like, whoa, like big light bulb or anything. So anyways, we had gone through and watched season 1, season 2, season 3, but we had not seen
Fire Walk with Me.
Fire Walk with Me.
Yeah.
And it was just like, I'm just sitting there, I'm watching the movie. I'm paying attention to it, half paying attention. I'm like working on cut-ups. I have this big table in front of me, and I have all these like cut up pieces of paper, and this pile that I call the haunted and accursed pile.
Mm-hmm.
And which here's a piece of it, and it looked, nothing really special. It's a bag of paper, right? And so anyways, I'm watching this movie, and there's a scene with Teresa Banks, who is a prostitute, and there's the whole backstory. You can go look that up for yourself. But she's her cadaver is laid out. They're doing an autopsy. They pull a piece of paper out of her fingernail, and I instantly thought, well, that's interesting because they're pulling this little cut up piece of paper out of her fingernail, and I'm sitting here in front of this big table, which is kind of roughly the same size of a hospital gurney, and there's this like just body of dead information sitting in front of me, and I was kind of like immersed suddenly in this metaphor of like the sacred whore, right? Mm. And so I just dipped in, pulled a sliver of paper, and it said, "See myself." And I thought, wow, that's really interesting, and it kind of gave me a little spark, a little chill, and I made record of it. And then later, maybe 1 or 2 days later, I went and looked it up by the Cipher because I was kind of jabbing back into that stuff. I've been watching Hellier here and there, and I'd watched specifically the thelemic parts. That's what I was really looking into, and the stuff with Greenfield. And I was like, this is all interesting. So I'll go back and just look at it as this is a synchronicity I had, and so let's look at it by the Cipher. And by the Cipher, see myself equals 141, and 141 also equals Teresa Banks.
Mm.
And so I boom, and then I started just like breaking down the correspondences for like every little thing in Twin Peaks, after
141 that. Also the circle.
Yes, the corpse.
Oh yeah, the corpse.
And Teresa Banks is a corpse, and and so this is something where there's this, it's like a hyperstitional moment, is what it seems, and I started looking into, or is there any connection at all to Thelema and Twin Peaks? And well, the answer is yes, actually, in the story. And I mean, if you watch the end of season 3, I mean, the Babylon symbolism, the sex magic symbolism, the stuff with Trinity, it's all very connected to the current of Thelema, and it's also in the Aeon of Horus, and also in the books that Mark Frost put out, Secret History of Twin Peaks. There is a whole section about one of the fictional characters who's the guy who actually starts listening post alpha, working for Project Blue Book and later the Blue Rose. And anyway, at one point he's tasked with spying on Elron and Jack Parsons while they're doing the Babylon working and all that kind of stuff. So it is in the weave, it's, and I'm not so out of the weeds by, making these connections. And then, I also found out another little synchronicity was that the pilot for Twin Peaks called The Northwest Passage, it ran on ABC. ABC equals Dale by the Cipher. And it also equals TV. It ran on April 8th. Was it 1990? Yeah, 1990. Exactly 86 years after the reception of the chapter of Nui in the Book of the Law. The as your
86, is that your year too?
86. I was born in 85.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
86 equals Kronzon. Yeah, so take that how you will, right?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so then I really started to invest my time into trying to make sense out of all this stuff and why it was coming all together at one point, this sort of ultra terrestrial super spectrum thing, this Twin Peaks thing, this ufanautical edge, this Kabbalistic edge, the who is I was, how are all these things connected? What are these things doing to the world, and how are they all kind of working together and harnessing a sort of a unified message through myself as the heir apparent Babra Inanna.
Right, yeah. Well, and I don't know why I'm blanking, but Lynch's character in Firewalk with Me, my favorite, and something that I always attune to because of my mental disfluencies, I always have an earphone in, and I'm either sometimes when I'm talking to people, I'll listen to a tempo, I'll listen to a metronome just to help pace myself and pace thoughts and stuff. But yeah, that one always stuck with me when I was a kid was Lynch's. I mean, obviously he's like, what? A lot, like screaming while he's got the earpiece.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, that's always haunted me. I'm in Cascadia now, and I'll tell you, when I first moved here, there's been many a punk house I've lived at where we marathoned, Twin Peaks. I finally got to go see, Sonomish and Snoqualmie and all the places out here, which is really just like 30 minutes away. But yeah, there's a temperament to Lynch that is not unlike artists like Kazimir Malevich or Tom Waits, or what I mean. There's just an oozing aesthetic or oeuvre that you is single-handedly like coming from a place of that, and he wrote that book Catching the Big Fish, which
TM meditation.
Well, I didn't take it as that at the time, but yeah, I see it now.
Going deep, going deep to find to catch the big fish. I mean, it doesn't.
Yeah,
I don't think he thinks that it has to be transcendental meditation. That's just what really got it for him. But
that'll always be not a rub or anything, but that will always be kind of a roadblock for me and understanding. But at the same time, if it works for you, fucking preach. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But I just remember, him. He's also of that Imaginarium, and I think this is where the ALW Cipher, really works. This is why, building our own folklores, writing our own fucking stories, like tethering and tying all these things that are seemingly alienated, but through that poetry really grasp people. Mm-hmm. And his whole thing was, with catching the big fish is like someone's going to catch it, whether you catch it or not, someone's going to catch it. Absolutely. Like if you're not paying attention, like it'll pass you by. Like, and I always just loved that, how like simple that was, as far as like a pragmatic standpoint. And I see it through his directing too. I see it through fucking, especially like Inland Empire, like, oh God, yeah. He'll handle the camera. No one else is going to do it. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's like the most characteristic very much of him. He just oozes that. And I think that's like, I don't worship the man. I worship the idea of being just so into the conduit of art.
That's what I'm getting at.
Oozing magic.
That's the core of what my practice is. There's a genius within, but at least a big part of it probably is tapped into a current. You know what I mean? Right. The electricity in here, that's one of the currents. The electricity in the blood in here in the heart, all of these things. This is how we come pre-connected to each other. That's the original, the deepest current, which comes from, First Mother, but what is she trying to express? What is this genius that's expressing itself through all strata of society, through all kinds of different literature, all kinds of different music and practices? What is it? And what is it trying to say? You know, that's really what I'm trying to get at the core of, you know.
Yeah.
And we take all kinds of different roads and stuff and go in all kinds of different directions, but you get a little piece. You're getting little pieces. You know, everybody that works with this cipher becomes sort of enchanted and sort of I don't want to scare anybody, but kind of possessed by this collective, this deeper realm of collective genius. It's a little bit deeper in the ocean. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And maybe when you go down there, you're going to see some funny stuff that you're not used to. You're going to see things in new ways, or, you know, you're going to trip out a little bit, but it's worth the ticket. You know, it's worth the price of admission.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Buy it and take the ride. But yeah, I was going to say, you know, it always reminds me of, you know, young. It's like we sketch, we write with, or we draw with free abandon. And it's almost like essentially kind of a perfect comic book of self, where you sketch and you start learning how to ink and kind of build, and then you're like, holy shit, I've got to make these panels kind of make sense. You start blocking things off and making your own kind of gematria or fucking arithmetic to like how this story, you know, is concerned. Some people stop at one skill, other people go, fuck that. Even if it's bad, I don't give a shit. I'm going to be the colorist. I'm going to be the writer. I'm going to be the inker. You know, I'm going to be the penciler. You know, I'm going to be the script supervisor, whatever. And yeah, those type of people, such as yourself, all the listening post alpha analogy, you know, listening post alpha agents, you know, I feel like are fucking coerced in that sense of, you know, I don't, there's just not a there's not a divot of which people trip that isn't kind of celebrated in and of itself too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and Chet Zar, speaking of an amazing artist. Yeah, Chet Zar. Yeah, I was like, if anyone would get that analogy, it's probably Chet. Yeah.
But back to Lynch and this kind of, and the collective genius and like how it relates to the LPA and stuff like that is like, you know, he very often is given a shout out to his influences, you know, and letting them speak through him. And people don't realize, you know, how much somebody like Jean Cocteau speaks through David Lynch.
Right.
You know? And like I had put those pieces together a long time ago, but I never checked out any of Cocteau's films. And recently, because of some like synchronistic stuff that came out of the ether, I decided to go and check out Orpheus.
Oh yeah, I remember you speaking of this. I still have yet to see that one.
So this is the film, I'm pretty sure, where, you know, there's dream sequences where this woman is laying in bed, and I can't remember, I think she might be dying or in a fever dream or something, and she's the floor underneath her is that, you know, the red room Black Lodge floor or whatever, you know, with the
black and white tiles,
the wavy black and white tiles or whatever. And I guess that's where he gets that. And but also importantly to the LPA is that Orpheus is a poet who wants to tap into the collective genius. He wants to find some sort of method to kind of silence the voice of his ego and let something else speak through him. He wants to be a channel, you know. And,
etymologically, Orpheum. Yeah.
And he starts, he starts getting messages through the radio after a fellow poet gets hit by a car. Now that ties in synchronistically with me, because one of my most traumatic experiences as a child is I was a victim of a hit and run that was never solved. We don't know. Someone hit me, broke my leg in half, and we never found out who did it, you know? And so that kind of resonated a little bit, but there's like this dead poet on the other side, or maybe there's like a dead Bob on the other side that's speaking all this truth, like on, you know what I mean, or something like that.
No, yeah, this is what breaks up in my head.
Like,
Yeah, for
yeah, just wild stuff like that, you know, like, but
yeah.
there's so like with all these synchronicities, you get these, you also kind of tap into the ghost of yourself, you know, the wound equals enter, you know, by the Cipher and stuff like that, but it also equals adorations. You know, you have to love your wounds, you know, the wound also equals the stars, you know, it also equals the aeon, you know, so like these, you start conceptualizing the wound as something, you know, where the genius can work its way through, you know, then I think you're headed somewhere pretty powerful psychologically, not in a sense that you want to like have more wounds, you know what I mean? But you can go and channel through that wound. You can kind of
maybe better,
you know,
able to brace, right?
Yeah. And yeah, so that's maybe one of my dangerous thoughts. But yeah, so to get back to Orphe and he starts receiving messages through the radio. Everybody thinks he's insane, you know, and but it turns out to be a dead poet on the other side feeding him these poems that he didn't get to publish or whatever. But I thought, wow, highly synchronistic, and also totally tied into the David Lynch Twin Peaks mythos and all that kind of stuff. So that's just an example of what this way of thinking and tying it in with Twin Peaks and the Cipher, you know, can do, you know, in your magical practice.
Yeah, I don't want to hark on this too much longer, but it, you know, it really begs the question. You know, when I spoke to Ren Collier, it came up, you know, he brought up Robert Monroe, and he in the Journey. It's like the out of body experience, like trilogy he wrote. And I was telling him about my practice with, you know, Hauntomancy, the Haunt Manual, and the first practice, the first ritual was about, you know, myself in 2017, because it was a really magical year. I was having a hard year, and I was like, what made it so that was such a bountiful year? I'm going to conjure that ghost of self. Then the second one, you know, I learned the hard way. It's like, well, too much, you know, like there's a lot of shit that happened.
Yeah.
I totally forgot. The second one was an aspect of self that I missed as a kid, or like just kind of the freedom to tinker the night away. But the third one, you know, it's just this dumb, like, popper fucking like hypothesis of, wait, can I communicate with me like in the future that's temporarily displaced? You know what I mean? It just starts with something that's simple and folkloric. And of course, you know, Ren was like, hey, that reminds me, you know, Robert Monroe was like, holy shit, my out of body experiences, the people that were guiding were, you know, aspects of myself,
right,
that were coming back and helping.
Yeah.
And it's shit like that. It's like, yeah, it's you know, there's so many tethers, and we all kind of find our ways of saying it, but like I just absolutely adore the process of like coming to these eurekas and then going, oh, you know that, oh, okay, well, you know?
Well, yeah, somebody inevitably will be like, that's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
But if you can explain the process, you know, if you can explain the process, it is transmittable, you know what I mean? It is,
yeah.
People can get it, you know. I've gotten people that know nothing about any of this stuff to like kind of get the significance of what I'm doing, you know, at the very least. And, you know, but it is, I think, you know, the kind of work we do, I don't think it's the expression of a crazy person, but I think it makes people feel crazy. Do you know what I mean?
I tell you what, I think you, like you and other agents, Groucho, Stevie, everybody, Sam, Leia, of course, like they're so good at translating their own poetry, like how they cycle through the chasms
I love that.
of life. They're so good at translating it, whether it's like, you know, fine art or music, or, you know, these transmissions and deep, you know, kind of ponderances and just hangouts. It's like that shit fucking inspires the hell out of me. Like I absolutely adore the idea of just being so fluent with poetry that there's, of course there's the right amount, there's the right pinch of doubt, there's the right pinch of, confidence, but it's all just kind of this beautiful tarry into who knows, you know what I mean?
I
And
do.
so, yeah.
Yes.
But anyways,
Insofar that it transcends words.
Exactly. Yeah. But at the same
And that's
time,
the real funny thing at the end, is that it all is like, it leaves it. We're working towards something that takes us to a feeling and a state of consciousness that transcends the word,
I love this Groucho Trout fellow LPA agent. We're all alternate parallel versions of ourselves divided for love's sake. I love that because, through art, and I think, through the practice of magic and all of this stuff, I've often thought that it's not to go into like a quantum or multiversal idea, but it's almost like learning how to translate the poetic, language of an essence that is across many mediums, right? So it makes sense to that, these are all just practices of like, what is the essence of the various ridiculous versions or possibilities or whatever? Like, how would I translate that? And it's like, of course it's not fucking, the Wiktionary, you know what I mean? Of course it's like some beautiful, brandish, like folkloric vernacular that only you would know, that only kind of sings true to you in some beautiful way.
And absorbs the Wiktionary, you know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But anyways, obviously this isn't the end, dear friend. We talk all the time. Obviously we should do this again. I mean, there's so much more to dip into that I'd love to see other people be involved in or be open to. I'm very appreciative of your guidance, your knowledge, especially of just me kind of unlocking this weird source code with shit, being just kind of this like drunkard, pugilist out on the out on the fringes of ghost punching, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I appreciate this, and thank you for such a wonderful conversation.
I appreciate it too. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And with that, oh yes, thank you, Lynn. Lynn's an ET, she knows. Yes, thank you all for coming. My favorite comment of the night goes to Genocide, of course. But yes, thank you, Chet, Jesus or Jesus, J. Lynn, feel better, Keats. I appreciate that. Thank you, Chet.
Yes.
Yeah, it was good to see you. Eileen was here. CW was here. I'm obviously just really out of practice with live streams because everything I've been doing has been kind of pre-recorded or edited or whatever. So thank you all for showing up. And thanks for listening to Bobby. Please pick up the Listening Post Alpha Journal 1. I think I fixed the link, and thank you for Chet for telling me that the links weren't working in StreamYard. So I fixed that. I'm also going to put this here. Bobby does Super Spectrum Incorporated on YouTube, and you should go subscribe, which is going to be commented now. All right. And then here's the Listening Post Alpha Journal 1. You can also find it in the show notes. Please subscribe to Haunt Manual, simply just hauntmanual.com. If you fancy some more meandering into the ratitudes or maybe dead knots of my own practices and music and writing and all of that, patreon.com for as little as a bone. You can
worth it every last cent.
I
it really is. It's great. It's a great Patreon. He's constantly putting up content, more than a lot of the other Patreons that I have supported in the past.
Oh, interesting. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I know. I go through, it's like with anything, I go through tufts and bouts of, I like to be Patreon's been great because I can be toiling away late at night and put stuff out, you know what I mean? And it doesn't have to have so much like pomp and circumstance, like, you know, live streams or podcasts, although those are coming. New podcast, new blah, 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 blah. Who cares? But with that, yes, please subscribe to Bob. Please subscribe to or check out Listening Post Alpha Journal 1. It is a fucking hoot. Super interesting. Break open your head. Check it out. And yeah. Oh, Bob Rod link.
ALW Cipher Study Group on Facebook also.
Yeah, let me get that here because I'm putting it in the Cipher Group Facebook. Yeah, here we go.
It's a private group. You have to ask to join, but it's yeah, I'll let you in. Whoever thou art.
So here's the ALW Cipher Group. Hopefully that works. Links still not working. I'm even posting them in YouTube themselves. I'm clicking on it.
You've dropped too much knowledge tonight, Keats.
Look who's talking. I ain't doing shit. All right. Yes. So please check out the description if those links don't work. It's got everything. I will add right now while I have you all looking at me, so I feel forced to, and I do it, is the ALW Cipher Group on Facebook. Once you start breaking open the head using Ren and Allen's NAEQ, join this. Have fun, share your findings. It's a great back and forth, and also it helps you build your own glossary, which is always great. But yeah, with that, I'll probably leave with I have I've been working on a lot of music outside of the audiomancy practices. I'll leave with a new song, new demo, and then we'll call it tit for tat. Bob, love you, sir. Thank you so much for being here. And with that, folks, we say, hold on.